Welcome one, welcome all to the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast. Blaine Kellar joined as always by the Titan insider himself, Terry McCormick. Producer Mark Rogers making the magic happen in the back. The Titans welcome the Los Angeles Rams for their home opener on Sunday. And Cam Ward's home debut, Terry, it seemed like Ward wowed, but not many other Titans did, falling 33-19 and 0-2 on the season.
Yeah, we saw Cam Ward's first touchdown pass of his NFL career, a really dazzling play where he rolled first to his left, then back to his right, threw across his body, and found Alec Eilmanor in the scramble drill for a 9-yard touchdown, even though the ball was probably 30, 35 yards in the air. And that certainly brought some excitement, albeit briefly, for the Titans. But the rest of the day was kind of washed out in more penalties, more sacks, and more poor execution.
Ward went 19 of 33 passing for 175 yards and a touchdown, which one Titan called generational. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break. Of course, the bad stuff too, the Titans had 5 more sacks and 10 more penalties, as Terry mentioned. Again, 33-19, the final against the Rams. Talk to Fox 17's Jill Jelnick after this commercial break. First, let me tell you that we're brought to you by the Mint Gaming Hall. Circus Sports, the largest sportsbook in Kentucky, is now open for business at the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. With an 80-foot sportsbook screen and stadium-style seating, the Mint's the place to be for any sports fan. College sports, college football, pro sports, the NFL, and beyond. Circus Sports and the Mint are proud sponsors of our podcast. Be sure to check them out just north of Nashville off I-65 North and exit 121. We'll be right back on the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast.
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs. Winning just got closer.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome to the Omni Nashville Hotel. Urban elegance with a vintage touch. Our 800-room hotel opened up in the fall of 2013 with 746 guest rooms and 54 suites.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing weather report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Glad to have Fox 17's Jill Jelnick joining us now on the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast, talking the Titans' 33-19 loss to the Rams. Jill, thanks so much for your time. And to start off here, is it fair to say that this Titans loss may be more of what fans can expect throughout the season? That first week you could kind of chalk up to some coaching decisions and some malpractice in there. But this was a Titans team in week 2 that still had its flaws, was still a losing team, but had a quarterback that had some really strong moments. Is that a fair assessment to make you feel like?
It's a fair assessment, but I hope that's not what we see for the rest of the season, Blaine. I hope you're wrong about that. I hope that these first 2 games of the season are obviously magnifying the weaknesses of this team, but these are weaknesses. These are things you can fix. They've had 10 penalties in each of their first 2 games. Those are things you can correct. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Terry, but you can correct those mistakes over time. Discipline issues as a whole, when it comes to an NFL team, is something maybe a little bit harder to wrangle in right away and fix it in 1 week. But at least when it comes to the penalties, those are fixable issues. When it comes to Cam Ward with the fumble, the strip sack and the fumble, those are mistakes that you can fix. One of the biggest concerns for me is the offensive line and the lack of depth there, and how that is an issue that's carried over from last season. I'm an optimist, and I do like head coach Brian Callahan. Unfortunately, these first 2 games are not at all the team we believed was going to take the field these first 2 weeks of the season, especially after hearing the players and Coach Callahan talk so positively about their growth this offseason. I would love to believe that these first 2 weeks are growing pains for not just the rookie, but this new Titans team. And hopefully they can fix a lot of them. They have to if they want to compete in the AFC South, because their next 2 opponents are not going to be easy. They host the Colts, who are, by the way, 2-0 entering this upcoming week 3, and then the Texans right after that. So I hope you're wrong, Blaine. I hope that this is a team that really needed to get smacked in the face these first 2 weeks to figure out, okay, these are the areas. Now let's really, really get to work.
Jill, I mean, I appreciate you being an optimist, but this thing has just really has gone sideways for far too long. And the thing that I look at with this, and Blaine and I talked about it before we went on the air, in some ways, I hate to say it, this team may be worse than last year, because last year, I'll put it in context. Last year, they lost to start the season 2 7-point games to the Bears and the Jets. And a lot of that was pinned on Will Levis because he turned the ball over at inopportune times. He threw 3 interceptions through the first 2 games, lost a couple of fumbles, those sorts of things because of the poor protection. Well, now you've added Cam Ward, who, at least on the interceptions front, has been better, hasn't thrown any interceptions, has taken care of the football as far as not putting it in harm's way when he lets go of it, to throw it down the field. But the same things are still happening. Penalties, sacks, lack of explosive plays. That's way down from last year. This team had 3 explosive plays yesterday. They had 1 against Denver, so they have 4 in 2 games. They lead the league in penalties with 23. They lead the league in sacks allowed with 11. When is it going to get fixed? Granted, the 2 teams that they played to open this season are better than the 2 teams that they played to open last year. I'll give you that. But it's so agitating to watch this team just implode game after game after game.
There's no question the pass protection issues carrying over from last year. That's a huge concern. And you make a great point about the explosive plays too, Terry. But you also, if we're going to compare this season to last season, then you can only take the sample size of the first 2 weeks of the season from last year. And I remember all of us being like, okay, this is a team that is a little shaky, right? Will Levis looks like he has potential. I think all of us at the start of last season were hopeful. We're hopeful that they could turn it around. Unfortunately, that the last season snowballed, and Will Levis was a big part of that. And I think maybe that's also why I'm a little more hopeful, is because they have that core piece in Cam Ward, who I think out of the first 2 weeks of the season, his best skill so far has been his decision-making skills. Like you said, no interceptions besides the fumble yesterday. I believe he's done a really nice job going through his checkpoints, making the right decision, trying to play it safe, even though you could argue his first touchdown was the opposite of safe. But I think when you look at Cam Ward, what he's done, yes, around him needs help, but I still believe that there is these concerns could be addressed, could be helped. And offensive line, again, that's going to be my number one biggest concern. But I would be careful by saying, hey, no explosive plays yet, because of what you said, the opponents they faced. Very good Rams defense. Also, the Broncos top in the league last year in a lot of categories. So I still would like to argue it's a small sample size. I think there's no question that the offense took some steps forward yesterday. Unfortunately, the offensive line did not, and that's going to be the biggest question. Can they address that? Can they give Kim Ward more time?
That touchdown brought a lot of hope, I feel like, to not just Titans fans, but the players talking with them afterward. Even the press box had a pretty big reaction. Just a play of that magnitude can cause that. What was your reaction to seeing him sling it across his body and find Alec Manor for the touchdown?
Blaine, my reaction was, this is the Cam Ward that we hoped it would be, the Cam Ward on this field for the Titans, the quarterback that we hoped the Titans drafted. That was a really great example of an extreme example of his skill set, right? His levels. Cam Ward under pressure, scrambling completely. You think there's no way he has a chance. What does he do? He makes it happen. That's an extreme level of what he can do. Just think what he can do when he has more time in the pocket, better protection, he's got a little more chemistry with the receivers. Hopeful is a really good word to describe it, but also just I'm excited to see more of what he can do, hopefully not in such high pressure situations.
Jill, one of the things that I was concerned about yesterday, and it kind of came to fruition, was the defense, especially without Devondre Sweat. Now, they didn't do a bad job stopping the run, but they got cooked through the air by Matthew Stafford, who threw for 298 yards. How concerned are you about this defense, that it's not going to be able to hang in week after week against some of the better quarterbacks in the league?
Yeah, that's a great question, Terry. And I think why it's so hard to answer is we don't exactly know how the Rams stack up offensively compared to the rest of the league, right? Stafford looked like, to Callahan's point, like a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback yesterday. He looked really good. And you made a great point yesterday, too. They have two of the top wide receivers in the league on their team. So offensively, they are a very, very good team. And I'd like to give them credit and how they kind of dismantled the Titans, but the second half collapse is the biggest concern. They didn't have that, actually, to quote Cody Barton, defensive competitive stamina in that second half. And that to me is a combination. I took that quote as energy, focus, also just pure endurance and conditioning. But I also took it as something that could be learned and kind of reeled in time. So I want to answer your question, Terry, I want to give credit to Matthew Stafford and that Rams offense. That's a pretty good looking offense. I'd like to see how the Titans stack up against their AFC South opponents' offenses, right? Because I don't know if we're talking about Matthew Stafford quality there, but they definitely need to refocus the second half. Nick Suss from the Tennessean had a really good quote. Since 2024, the Titans have been outscored in the fourth quarter alone 10 different times. There's no question they struggle finishing games. That's offense as well, but the defense has to take the blame for that too.
One of the things, too, in this regard, and we touched on it last night in the Fox 17 segment, this team gets exposed when the depth has to play. And I think that's a product of 4 straight years of missed draft picks because, I likened it back to, watching a college game when you see a group of 5 team take on a Power 5 team. A lot of times they'll hang in for a good amount of the time, but then when you get to the late in the third, early, or get to the fourth quarter, that's when the depth, the fact that the second team of the Power 5 team is nearly as good as the first team, whereas the group of 5 doesn't have that kind of depth.
Yeah.
In the NFL, when you have injuries like the Titans had on the offensive line, like they had on the defensive line yesterday, when you have injuries, and the Titans are this way at almost every position, anytime they have an injury when a starter goes down, there's going to be probably a bigger drop-off with them than it is with most of the teams in the league, and I think that really bites them.
Oh, there's no question about it. I loved your analogy last night on Fox 17 about the group of 5 versus the Power 5, and the depth aspect of that is so crucial. That's a big factor, and unfortunately, you're right. It has hurt the Titans last several years, and you can pinpoint it to misses in the draft. I think that's where we have to sort of trust Mike Borgonzi, Titans general manager, also Callahan, also the coaching staff, to take these first 2 weeks, really pinpoint the areas, again, offensive line, pass protection, and say where exactly are we getting beat? Where exactly, which part of the line? Where do we need to add more depth? Where do we need to add more players? Can we go get some depth somewhere else? And they definitely have capital for that. But I think this is the first couple weeks are for assessment, and we just have to trust that they're going to hopefully make some good decisions. And isn't this where coaching comes in too? They got to get back out there. How many times are we going to hear this week? We got to get back to the drawing board. We got to get back out there. But you know what? As much as it's coach speak, it's the truth. That's the name of the game. Injuries are going to happen. They can't always predict. You can't always plan for them. But you're right, Terry, the depth is a concern. So they got to get to work. They got to get coaching, and they got to maybe get some help as well.
A few more for Jill Jelnick of Fox 17 on the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast. We talk about drafting. The rookie class for this year has already made a few strides, especially offensively. Talked about Cam Ward briefly. Alec Iomanner had the touchdown grab. Chimere Dike had a punt return negated because of a questionable penalty. How impressed were you with the offensive rookies from yesterday?
Oh, so it's so much fun to watch. And for the second week in a row, it didn't seem like it was just a blooper, right? Or just a nice run or luck for DK. Wasn't he the one that with the 71-yard return in week 1 as well? He's had an impressive 2 weeks. Great to see that from a rookie. Obviously, we've talked plenty about Cam Ward. And then I think the other star of the show yesterday, Alec Iomanner, man, he is fun to watch, right? Obviously the touchdown in the end zone, but how about that one-handed grab off his helmet? So just very acrobatic, very athletic. Also really like speaking to him, down to earth. I think he's going to be, you hope he's going to be one of those core players for the Titans moving forward. So Blaine, I completely agree with you. If you were to pick out some bright spots from these past 2 weeks, there's not many, but the rookie class is definitely one of them.
True, and it should get better as once you get to the point where you add Kevin Winston to the mix. Over on the defensive side of the ball, he's still recovering from the ACL and has had a little bit of a hamstring issue. And then at some point, you hope that Femi Oladejo will start to figure things out. The athleticism is there, and he's just got to try and learn the position and learn the nuances of playing on the edge before he becomes a bigger contributor, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's without mentioning Gunnar Helm, too, who continues to grow as part of this offense. Jill Jelnick joining us for the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast. Jill, thank you so much for your time. Tell people where else they can find you so that we can get you out of here.
Yes, of course. Fox 17, 5:30, 9, and 10. You can also tune into our Nashville Game Changers podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, thanks so much for letting me join on, talk some more Titans, and I'm going to stay optimistic, okay? You can't, just for at least a couple more weeks. So maybe you need to have me back on in a couple weeks and then see how I'm doing.
Thanks for bringing a bright spot to our show today, Jill. We'll take one more break here, and when we come back, our stock report and stats. Stay tuned on the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast.
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer. He shoots and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Hi, I'm Joseph Burgoyne, Chef Tornado of the Omni Nashville Hotel. Come see us at Kitchen Notes.
Before we get into our Titans stock report, be sure to check out 7 Bridges, the ultimate Eagles experience, playing at the Mint Event Center. That is September 27th, I should say, in a couple of weeks. The Mint, again, a proud sponsor of the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast. Now we're going to bring up some stats, some stocks for you from the second week of the Titans season. Terry, kick us off.
All right, stock up. Well, obviously, going to go with Alec Almaner. Had a nice day yesterday. Had 56 yards in receiving, including both his and Cam Ward's first NFL touchdown. So, going to go with Alec Almaner as one of my stock ups. And then beyond that, I'm going to go with, I don't know. I guess maybe the special teams unit, because they continue to not be a liability, and had it not been for a questionable penalty call, they could have provided a game-changing play yesterday with Chimere Dike's 57-yard punt return for a touchdown. Something, by the way, the Titans have not done since 2012.
Wow. Yeah, Joey Sly, a part of that special teams unit as well, had 4 field goals, one from 55, one from 57, really generating the Titans offense through 2 weeks. Talked about DK. We've talked about Alec. We've talked about Ward. One quick note on that with his touchdown. I mentioned the L'Jarius Sneed generational quote from earlier today. Really, the whole Titans locker room found that throw to be elite, one that one of the top tier quarterbacks can make around this league. That was really interesting. You can find that story on TitanInsider.com, as well as Terry's recap and notebook from week 2. Tony Pollard, also deserving of a stock up. Not a breakout game by any means, not a breakout run at all, really. yesterday, but he was as steady comes when talking about running backs. Had 92 yards, I believe, on 20 carries. Continuing to, even without a backup running back, he's still taking on the lead role for the Titans and doing a solid job.
Yeah, the one thing you'd like to see more out of that is a little bit more explosiveness. The Titans have not had a run longer than 10 yards this season. It would be nice if they could break one, and I guess we got spoiled when Derrick Henry was here because, 60-yard runs seem to be the routine. But, hey, 92 yards is nothing to sneeze at, so certainly a solid effort from Pollard.
Talking stock down now, going to go the line units, the trenches that we touched on briefly with Jill Jelnick. The only time we heard really an edge rusher's name called yesterday was Arden Key when he blocked an extra point on special teams. Draymond Jones, his name popped up, but I believe on a penalty. The defensive line played all right in terms of the middle, but the outside edges continue to just not provide any production at all. The offensive line, we've talked about it, 5 more sacks this week. They contributed to a large chunk of those penalties as well that continue to plague this team.
Yeah, and I'm going to take that a step further. Not going to pin it all on the offensive line, but some of it is on the offensive line and on the receivers because Cam Ward is only averaging 4.7 yards per pass attempt, and that is, that's pretty low, plus a 50.8% completion rate. I think he's 31 of 61. Some of those been throwaways, some of those, obviously receiver drops and things like that. But the supporting cast on offense has to do more to make this guy better and to give him a chance to be better. I think he shows promise, but they're going to have to step up and help him out if they want to dig their way out of this hole and find some offensive rhythm.
John Ojukwu in particular, a name that struggled yesterday. We can thank him for Cam Ward's highlight throw, mainly because he lost his battle on the right side that forced Cam Ward to break out of the pocket and break contain. Terry, where do you feel like the biggest emphasis this line needs to get better in from week 2 going into week 3 is?
Well, I think it's obviously pass protection because you saw yesterday 5 more sacks. And then the penalties are also an issue. Peter Skoronski addressed that, how that you just can't have penalties, yet they continue with this team. I think, the best thing that could happen to them would be for J.C. Latham to get healthy as soon as possible because, as we addressed earlier with Jill, the depth issues for this team across the board and especially on the offensive line are, those are just, too high hills to climb, so to speak, Blaine. It's just very difficult to ask a guy like John Ojukwu to block a guy like Byron Young or Jared Verse like he was assigned to do yesterday.
One more confusing stock. The market is a little shaky on L'Jarius Sneed still. He played 91.5% of snaps yesterday and had some really solid plays in the end zone defending Davante Adams. Also allowed a touchdown to Adams. Also had a holding penalty that led to a 1-yard run by Blake Corum for a touchdown. Pro Football Focus, if you focus on coverage grades, gave him a pretty low score from this past week. But he kind of got off the pitch count. So I'm not really sure, Terry, where we put L'Jarius Sneed at this point in the stock report.
Yeah, you're right. It is a mixed bag. I mean, the good news is he was able to play the entire game. The bad news is, he did get cooked on the penalty and on the touchdown pass to Davante Adams. But he's not alone in that regard. Davante Adams has won his share of battles with numerous cornerbacks over the years. So overall, I'd say it's probably a plus that L'Jarius Sneed is able to give them more and able to give them a full game. Let's see how it does going forward. Let's see if he can stay healthy.
The Titans start divisional play next week, hosting the Indianapolis Colts, who come in 2-0. The Titans will be 0-2. Thank you for tuning in to the Tennessee Pro Football Podcast, brought to you by the Mint Gaming Hall. Terry McCormick, Blaine Kellar, and Mark Rogers signing off. We'll see you here next week.